let it be something that has enough energy and kind of enough juice for you that you can really get a feel for it. But not so much that it kind of it can lead you into overwhelm. An analogy I might offer, as I was learning how to canoe, that I wouldn't want to start out with some class 5 rapids in order to do that. So to really touch into your own experience and look to see something that is interesting, but please don't take the very most hardest thing. We're cultivating the capacity to be present with our experience, not lost in it, not sunk in it, not overwhelmed by it. So just pick something that is of some interest to you. And then look and see if you have the qualities, or at least some of the qualities that we talked about yesterday afternoon in terms of wise effort. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. So really let this be a real inquiry. Is there any quality of curiosity or willingness to tolerate uncertainty or confusion? Is there a willingness for honesty? You don't have to have all of them, but maybe just one or two that could really support you in your practice. Is there a willingness to be patient with yourself? Patient with the experience? Is there a capacity for diligence? Kind of hanging in there with it, or kindness? Or lightness, kind of a sense of humor about it. A real appreciation that difficult emotion is part of this human experience. It's not personal. It's not yours. It's not mine. Bumping into difficult emotion is universal. It's just part of the human experience. The Dalai Lama so kindly speaks of his difficulties with anger and his difficulties with anxiety. It's so generous of him to let that be publicly known. Because what he's saying is, it's not personal, folks. It's just stuff. So can you find in your own experience, in your own willingness, some quality to relate to this difficult, maybe stuck place? Place that's a little sticky for you. You know, you work with it, you think about it, you contemplate it, and it kind of doesn't really go anywhere. And if you don't have the energy to work with it wisely, and there could be all kinds of reasons for it. It could be that, I'm just too preoccupied with this pain in my knee, and I just don't have any free attention for anything else. Or I'm too agitated this morning, or I'm too exhausted. Really what I need to do is be in nature. I don't have the resources right now to work with a difficult emotion. So to give yourself that awareness and let yourself know that. If that should be the case for you this morning, you have a couple of choices. One is you could just sit and ignore my words and do your own practice. And the other is, quite literally, if you choose to, you could leave. I don't mean leave the retreat, but you could do that too. But leave and be in nature or whatever. So just check in with yourself. We always want to check in with our own capacity and not try to white knuckle it or ninja warrior it, but to just look and see something that has enough juice and enough energy to be of interest to you, and at the same time not overwhelming. So just take a minute and pick something that you'd like to work with. Once again, recognizing it really isn't yours. this is part of the human experience. Human beings have this experience. It's part of the package. It's like having legs and lungs and skin and emotions. So we start by simply knowing the experience. Notice that there's a difference between discerning that you have this experience and criticism. It's like knowing that it's warm out, or that the sky is blue, or that there are those beautiful clouds in the sky, or there's noise from construction. Simply discerning it. Simply knowing. Not criticizing the sky for being blue or the emotion for being there. It's just like that right now. And then the next question is where and how to bring your attention to this. The good news is you already know some things that don't help. Presumably you've already worked with it a bit, or you wouldn't be choosing it as a stuck place. You already know that thinking about it, ruminating about it, trying to figure it out with your conceptual mind, you already know that that doesn't quite work. It's a perfectly reasonable approach. Trying to think our way out of difficulties is perfectly sensible. The only insensible or unsensible thing about it is to continue to insist that that is going to work when evidence points to the fact that it doesn't. When you've done that kind of thinking over and 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 over again, and it's not helping. So the good news is you already know that. That's all. There's just good news. So where to bring attention? So the investigation really is to bring attention into the body and to look and see in the body, how does the body know that you have this emotion? Where is it located in the body? Is there tightness in the throat, in the arms and hands? Is there a contraction in the belly or the back? Is there kind of a flutteriness, tingling? Just take some moments and just see if you can find this experience in the physical body. And if nothing seems to arise, just pause and wait. Ask your body how it knows that you have this experience. And then just be quiet and listen and watch. Ask your body to let you know how it knows this. And now, since the body's experience is made up of those elements that we've been speaking of, earth, fire, water, and air, we can explore this experience in terms of those elements. By the way, if as you're working with this difficult emotion, if the emotion kind of disappears, if it kind of dissolves and goes away, fine. You see that there's such a thing as impermanence. Things change. You don't have to go looking for it unless it seems there's some particular reason to do that. You can either rest in the spaciousness, or you can pick something else to work with. You decide. So working with the elements of this experience in the body, you first kind of let yourself just know it in the body. Get a sense of all of that. Just a sort of vague, general sense of all of that. What's it like to have this difficult emotional experience? How is it for your body? Just sort of in general. If you were drawing a picture, what would the picture look like? Would it be spiky and red? Would it be fuzzy and yellow? You know, what would your body look like if you were drawing a picture of this feeling, this emotion? And bring awareness to the earth element. Any qualities of form or substance, heaviness, lightness, shape, density. Is it hard like a bowling ball? Is it round like a bowling ball? Is it irregular? Does it have a shape? Is it kind of fuzzy and diffuse in its shape? Does it have a color? Maybe it does and maybe it doesn't. So just investigate. The earth element with respect to this emotion. What do you notice? It's okay if the noticing is a little unclear, if somehow the TV reception isn't coming in all together clear, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just get a sense, as much as you can, of the earth element connected with this emotion. Part of that is just noticing how big it is in the body, how much space does it take up. Are there parts of the body where the emotion isn't? You might bring awareness to the fire element. Is there any quality of heat or cool with respect to this emotion? Again, maybe there is and maybe there isn't. So just look and see. Taste it. Taste the soup. See what you notice. Is there any quality of wetness, water, wetness or dryness with respect to this emotion? And is there any quality of air? Any quality of movement? Does it move or is it very, very still? There's no right answer. It's just like this. You're just simply looking to see how it is in your own experience. So we first simply recognize, we first simply know the experience of this emotion. Now look to see if there could be a quality of acceptance of it. Would it be possible to give this feeling a bit of permission to simply be there? To let go for a moment of any effort to try to fix it or change it or even to understand it. To simply give it permission to be there. A couple of ways you can play with that. One is to see if it's possible to give it, if it's hard to give it permission, to see if you might give it just a hair of permission. A bit of space that's as big as a hair. Just that much. Another way you could play with permission is look to see, just sort of ask the feeling, the emotion, how big it wants to be. Does it want more space than you're giving it? You could check into it, ask it, and look to see how big the feeling, I'll call it a feeling, wants to be. Does it want to be bigger? Does it want to be as big as your whole body? Does it want to be as big as the whole room? All of Serenity Ridge? As big as the city, the state, the planet, the galaxy, 1 billion galaxies? How big does this feeling want to be? And look to see if you'd be willing to give it permission to be as big as it wants to be. Again, if it's really hard to do that, then look to see if you'd be willing to give it a hair of permission. Play with permission. How much room would you be willing to give this feeling? See if you'd be willing to bring a quality of kindness in the permission. Sort of like if your child or your animal is hurting, you might look at the painful place, or the child or the animal is like, oh honey, I care. I see you. I see this pain. I see this suffering. Oh, honey, I see you. And now, ask the feeling what it needs. That's a little hard because the invitation is to ask the feeling what it needs from you, and don't try to answer the question. If nothing comes, it's okay. Ask it what it needs and just rest, wait, be there with it, listen, see what it says. Sometimes feelings that haven't been attended to in quite a while in this kind of way, they kind of pout a little bit when you first ask them. And it takes a kind of patience and gentleness with them to say, no, really, I'm really here now. I want to know what you need from me. They don't necessarily always believe us right at first, when we've been spending so much time trying to get rid of them and push them away and tell them they're bad. So sometimes they're a little cranky when we first ask them what they need. And they don't always tell us right away. So be very patient with it. Ask, what is it that you need from me? And just listen. Don't try to answer it. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to guess what the answer might be. Just listen. And then look to see if you'd be willing to offer that. If there's an answer, would you be willing to give that? Once again, remembering that none of this is personal. Having this feeling, being caught in feelings, it's not personal. It's how it is to be a human being alive on this planet. This feeling isn't yours. It belongs to all of us as human beings. It's just stuff. It's there for us to work with, indeed. But it's not personal. I'll close again with a quote that I read part of yesterday. The quote from Rainer Maria Rilke, the poet, and it was given to me about 50 years ago by a beloved mentor who knew I was struggling with something. It was very meaningful then and has remained meaningful through all these years. I'll share it with you. Again, I read part of it yesterday. Works of art are of an infinite loneliness, and with nothing so little to be reached as with criticism. Only love can grasp and hold and be just toward them. Consider yourself and your feeling right every time with regard to every such argumentation, discussion, or introduction. If you are wrong after all, the natural growth of your inner life will lead you slowly and with time to other insights. Leave to your opinions their own quiet, undisturbed development, which, like all progress, must come from deep within and cannot be pressed or hurried by anything. Everything is gestation and then bringing forth. To let each impression and each germ of a feeling come to completion wholly in itself, in the dark, in the inexpressible, the unconscious, beyond the reach of one's own intelligence, and await with deep humility and patience the birth hour of a new clarity. That alone is living the artist's life in understanding as in creating. There is here no measuring with time. No year matters and 10 years are nothing. Coming to wholeness means not reckoning and counting, but ripening like the tree which does not force its sap and stands confident in the storms of spring without the fear that after them may come no summer. It does come, but it comes only to the patient who are there as though eternity lay before them, so unconcernedly still and wide. I learn it daily. Learn it with pain, to which I am grateful, because it brings my attention to the doorway of awakening. Patience is everything.